Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over both the early and main slate on DraftKings for Wednesday, July 11th. We do have a 3-game early slate today and an 11-game night slate. I'll be talking about both slates, be giving my 5 plays. Already got them plugged in for the early slate, already got them plugged in for the main slate as well. I'll cover both slates, talk about the pitchers, the batters I want to target. We'll look at implied run totals, stacks, BVP plays. We'll cover it all. But before we do get started, guys, make sure you drop a like on the video. Would definitely appreciate it. If you're new to the channel and you have not clicked that subscribe button yet, make sure you do subscribe down below so that way you won't miss out on any of my new uploads. But yeah, pitching on this early slate, it's pretty gross. Our most expensive pitcher is Jordan Zimmermann, who is 9,500, which is just crazy. But he does get a good matchup here versus Tampa Bay with just few options on this 3-game early slate with how gross the options are. I think Jordan Zimmermann is in play here. He's been good lately. Last few games been racking up strikeouts. 6 Ks against Toronto. In his last game against Texas, he was great. 8 innings, only allowed 4 hits, a run. Got 11 strikeouts versus the Rangers. The Rays will strike out. It's a good pitcher's park. I do like this spot for Jordan Zimmermann. We don't have any Vegas information on this game, but we do have the projected lineups for both teams. This projected lineup for the Rays, it's pretty much their everyday lineup. It's not a very good lineup. The top is okay, 1 through 4, but 5 down to 9, there's a lot of strikeouts there and just a lot of pretty poor hitters. So I really like Zimmermann here. I think he can get 20 to 25 DK points. Just hit value, I think that's really what you're worried about on this slate. Just find the pitcher that can hit value, then really, I think bats on the slate, or bats are going to win you this slate. And just hoping your pitcher really doesn't ruin it for you. But yeah, I like Zimmermann up top. I think he's worth the price and definitely my SP1. The SP2, I do like Lance Lynn here. I think Lance Lynn's a really good play. I haven't looked at FanDuel pricing, but if Lance Lynn's really cheap on FanDuel, or if he's cheaper than Zimmermann, I do really like Lance Lynn as your number 1 pitcher on FanDuel. I'm sure I'll be playing this early slate on both slates on FanDuel. Lance Lynn will probably be my pitcher on FanDuel. I haven't looked at pricing though, so definitely not set in stone. But yeah, I like Lynn here. He gets a good matchup with the Royals. I like this matchup. The Royals, they will strike out, even though Aaron Slegers, that dude was terrible. I don't know why I played that dude. He really struggled against the Royals. I don't think Lance Lynn's going to struggle here. Lynn is very good against righties. There are about 5 lefties in this projected lineup for the Royals, but really the only lefties you're worried about are Moustakas and maybe Duda. Alex Gordon, not really worried about. Herrera, not really worried about. Mondesi, not a guy I'm worried about either. So really Moustakas and Duda could give Lynn some troubles, but Lynn's very good against righties. Gets a lot of strikeouts versus righties. I just think he's a really good play here. He's a minus 205 favorite. It's very likely he gets a win. I think the Twins, probably the top stack on this early slate. They're going to rack up runs, and I like Lynn here at 7,400. Think he gets a win, hits value. 20 DraftKings points is definitely a reasonable projection for him, in my opinion. So I like building around Zimmermann and Lynn today, a pitcher that still leaves you a lot of salary to pay up for bats. And you're definitely going to want to pay up for bats on the slate. I feel like you're going to want to play the Twins. I went with a full twin stack or a mini stack. Logan Morrison, Brian Dozier, and Eddie Rosario. I like them all here. I like all the Twins. I think the Twins are the top stack, like I said. But you do have another somewhat high total, the Nationals at 4.8 runs versus Trevor Williams. But I do rank them behind the Twins. I just think the Twins, Burt Smith, this pitcher, not really a guy I'm worried about. They're going to score runs here. Mauer, Rosario, Dozier, Escobar, Morrison, Polanco. These guys are all really good plays. Definitely like the top of that lineup, though. You've got value. Really don't need value at hitter because there really aren't any expensive pitchers. But if you're looking for cheap value, you've got Morrison, you've got Mauer in there, you've got Jorge Polanco at 3,800. You've got cheap bats, you've got the expensive bats like Rosario that are really good plays. So I like a full twin stack today, Morrison, Dozier, and Rosario. Definitely 3 of my favorite there. But yeah, guys, these are my 5 plays for the early slate. Jordan Zimmermann, Lance Lynn, Logan Morrison, Brian Dozier, and Eddie Rosario. Now we will move on to stacks and BVP plays on this early slate before we move on to the night slate. So I mentioned the stacks. It's the Twins and it's the Nationals. Those are really the 2 teams I'm focused on. We don't have a pitcher for the Rays yet. Even if it's a poor pitcher, I probably won't be stacking the Tigers. We know it's not going to be Eovaldi, Snell, or Archer because they've all pitched recently. It's probably going to be another bullpen game for the Rays. But even so, I probably won't be stacking the Tigers. So I'm really looking to the Nationals and the Twins on this early slate, especially the Twins with the 5.7 implied run total. And then BVP plays, we'll cover the BVP plays. There is only a couple of them. Josh Harrison's gone 6 for 12 with 2 home runs versus Gio Gonzalez. Alex Gordon, 9 for 15 versus Lance Lynn. And Mike Moustakas, 4 for 13 with 2 home runs versus Lynn. So the only 2 guys that have hit Lynn well are both lefties. Like I mentioned, Lynn, he does have some problem with lefties. But then moving down to pitchers, we do have a pitcher that's done well, and it is Jordan Zimmerman. He has done well against the Rays in the past. The Rays have only hit Zimmerman for a 169 average through 71 ABs. But yeah, that's it for PVB and BVP on this early slate. Now we will move on to the night slate, cover the 11 games here. We'll talk about my 5 plays. Already have the 5 guys plugged in that I like for tonight. We'll talk about why I chose them, and we will talk about some of the other pitchers on this slate as well that I think are in play. So I went ahead and plugged in Sale. He's the most expensive pitcher on this slate, $13K, getting a matchup at home against the Rangers. We do have 3 other options over $10K. You got DeGrom, McCullers, and Freddie Peralta. Just focusing on these top 4 options, I actually think all 4 of them are in play, but Chris Sale is definitely my favorite here. Just this matchup against the Rangers, I love. The Rangers strike out a ton versus left-handed pitching. Chris Sale has already faced this team once this year and managed to get 12 strikeouts against them. Pitched 7 innings, only allowed 4 hits, 1 run. Got 37.6 DK points earlier this year when he faced the Rangers. This is just such a good matchup. It's understandable why he did so well against them. Just look at the top of this lineup all the way down. So many strikeouts versus lefties. DeShields will strike out. Odor, Profar, kind of for left of Chirinos, Rua. Pretty much like that 5 through 9 is just a ton of strikeouts there. Really love Sale here. He's a minus 354 favorite. Just heavy favorite. The Rangers only have a 2.9 implied run total. With Bartolo Colon pitching for the Rangers, the Red Sox should definitely be able to rough him up, give Chris Sale plenty of run support. I think he's the top pitcher on this main slate. This $13K salary I'm not worried about. I think he's worth his price. He actually might be a little bit too cheap today. Coming off a 35-point game against the Royals, his price dropped $1,000, which really doesn't make sense. I love Chris Sale, top option on the slate. DeGrom, McCullers, and Peralta, I think all are good options. I think all are viable for tournaments. But if I'm making like a one lineup for single entry stuff, if I'm making a cash game lineup, it's going to have Chris Sale in it. But anyways, moving on to SP2, looking at some of the cheaper options we could consider, I went with Sonny Gray as my cheap SP2. He's $6,500, very cheap. Gets a matchup with the Orioles that we do really like. The Orioles, we know this team is just not good offensively. They have pretty much one good hitter in their lineup, Manny Machado. Other than that, this lineup's really bad. There's a ton of strikeouts in this lineup. The Orioles, their run total is at 4.4 runs, somewhat low today. Gray is definitely a risky play. This guy, you really never know what you're going to get from Sonny Gray. But he has faced the Orioles twice this year and has done pretty well against them. Through 2 games against the Orioles, he's averaged 20 DraftKings points. Managed to get 10 strikeouts through 2 games, so he's averaging 5 Ks per game against the Orioles. He's allowed 4 runs through 2 games, so he's averaging 2 runs per game, or 2 earned runs per game against the Orioles. So not great, but it's mediocre. At $6,500, I really don't need a great performance from Sonny Gray. If he can get me 15 to 20, which I think he can versus this Orioles team, he can definitely be worth this price tag. Chris Sale is going to dominate. He should definitely be able to crush. I could easily see Sale getting me like 30 to 40, Sonny Gray getting me like 15 to 20, and I feel like that's definitely good enough at my 2 pitchers. So I do like Sonny Gray at $6,500 if you're going cheap. I think some of the other cheaper options is like pair with your stud. Either if you're playing Sale, DeGrom, McCullers, you need a cheaper option. I think obviously Gray, Luke Weaver at $7,700 against the White Sox, I think is an option you could consider. If you can fit in Kenta Maeda versus the Padres at $9,300, that's expensive, but if you can manage to do that, Kenta Maeda, really like that matchup there versus the Padres. He could be an option you go to. Not a lot of cheap dirt cheap value I'm looking to, like sub 6K. The cheapest I would go today is definitely Sonny Gray at $6,500. But yeah, we'll go ahead and move on to bats, cover the hitters we want to target on this 11-game night slate. I did go with a full core stack with my 3 hitters, my 3 plays. We'll go to look at Coors Field, look at the implied run totals for both teams. Very high. The Rockies' implied run total right now is at 6.2 runs. The Diamondbacks is at 5.5 runs. You got 2 pretty bad pitchers with Shelby Miller, Herman Marquez. 2 guys I definitely want to pick on. Like just all the plays in this game, especially like the cheap value you can get with Cargo, with Prara, Desmond. Tony Walters could be a cheap catcher. Alex Avila could be a cheap catching option. Descalso 3,900, Souza 4,100. You've got value from both sides of this game. Jake Lamb seems too cheap at 4,700. Should be batting third. I like the value you get with Descalso, Cargo, and Gerardo Parra. Just three guys that I feel like are too cheap. Playing in Coors Field, all are going to have the platoon advantage. All are getting to face pretty poor pitchers, just in my opinion. So if you're going cheap at second or third base, I think Descalso a really good option. Sub 4K. If you need outfield value, that you can look to Cargo, you can look to Parra. Both guys I feel like are a little bit too cheap. But yeah, these are my 5 plays for the 11-game night slate. Chris Sale, Sonny Gray, Daniel Descalso, Carlos Gonzalez, and Gerardo Parra. Now we will talk about some stacks and BVP plays on this 11-game night slate before we do get out of here. So as you can tell by my 5 plays, I'm going to have exposure to cores from both sides. Those are by far my top stacks. The Rockies are number 1 for me. The Diamondbacks would be number 2. Shelby Miller is just not a good pitcher. I want as much exposure to the Rockies as I can get. And then looking for other teams that we could consider, maybe if we're trying to get away from Coors Field, you can definitely look to the Red Sox, 5.7 implied run total versus Bartolo Colon. If you're fading Coors, which I definitely don't mind in tournaments, always like to fade Coors in tournaments because you know it's going to have ownership. The Red Sox will probably have ownership, but might be lower owned than Coors. You could definitely play the Red Sox versus Colon if you want to get away from some of that chalk. The Indians versus Tyler Mahle, you could definitely go to a 5.4 implied run total. We know the Indians hit the ball very well at home. You could consider them if you're getting away from the Coors chalk. But yeah, those are the stacks I'm really interested in. Not a ton of like sneaky stacks I see. Maybe the Braves versus Gaviglio, a 5.1 implied run total you could consider. Maybe like the Astros. Chris Bassett's pretty bad, but the Astros have kind of been a little cold lately, and I don't know if I really want to pay these hefty price tags for them. I think I'd rather just play the Red Sox guys if I'm going to pay like $5K for a third baseman or $5K for a second baseman. I'd rather just pay that price tags for some of the Red Sox plays. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the BVP plays for this 11-game night slate. There is a ton of BVP plays on this slate. You can look at all of them, but I'm just going to cover the ones with about a 20 at-bat sample, a 15 to 20 at-bat sample. So we'll start off with some of these Orioles. They have hit Sonny Gray well, 3 of them. Tim Beckham, 7 for 16 with 2 home runs. Caleb Joseph, 4 for 11 versus Sonny Gray. And Manny Machado, 7 for 21 with the home run. Mitch Moreland, 4 for 15, 2 home runs versus Bartolo Colon. JD Martinez also has 2 home runs versus Colon through 14 ABs. Adrian Beltre, really the only guy that's done decent against Sale, 5 for 16 with the home run versus Chris Sale. Going to Coors Field, a lot of BVP plays here. Paul Goldschmidt, 8 for 15 with 3 home runs versus Marquez. Ketel Martes, 3 for 10 with a home run. David Peralta, 7 for 17 with a home run versus Marquez. And then on the Rockies side, Charlie Blackmon, 7 for 13 with the home run versus Shelby Miller. Cargo is 7 for 18 with a home run, and DJ LeMahieu is 8 for 19 with the home run. And then in some of these late night games, you do have some BVP here. Andrelton Simmons, 5 for 10 versus Marco Gonzalez. Mike Trout, 6 for 12 with a home run versus Gonzalez. And then some of these Padres have hit Maeda well. Freddie Galvis, 6 for 13 with a home run. Manuel Margot, 4 for 11 with the home run. And Hunter Renfroe is 4 for 10 with a home run versus Maeda. But yeah, we'll move on to pitchers. Look at the pitchers that have done well and the pitchers that have struggled. We'll cover this before we do get out of here. So looking at the pitchers that have done well on the night slate, 2 of the top studs, Jacob deGrom and Chris Sale. deGrom has done well against the Phillies. The Phillies have only hit deGrom for a 2.08 average through 77 ABs. And then Chris Sale, he has done well against the Rangers. The Rangers have only hit him for a 125 average through 152 ABs. Managed to get 64 strikeouts in those 152 ABs. So the strikeouts have been there for Chris Sale in the past versus the Rangers. But moving on to pitchers that have struggled. Bartolo Colon, he struggled against the Red Sox. The Red Sox have only hit him for a 210 average, which is surprising, but they do have 7 home runs versus Bartolo. Definitely shown some power against him. 62 ABs, they do have 7 home runs. Herman Marquez, he has struggled against the D-backs. D-backs have hit him for a 355 average, 18 extra base hits, 7 home runs through 110 ABs. Shelby Miller, other side of that game, has struggled against the Rockies. The Rockies are hitting him for a 298 average in the past, 18 extra base hits, 5 home runs, 39 hits through 131 ABs. And then lastly, Marco Gonzalez, he has struggled against the Angels in the past. The Angels have hit him for a 321 average through 78 ABs, 25 hits, 9 extra base hits, and 3 home runs. But yeah, guys, that's it for BVP and PVB on this 11-game night slate, and that is it for the video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully this video did help you. If you did enjoy, before you get out of here, make sure you click that like button. I definitely appreciate it. And if you are new to the channel and you have not subscribed yet, make sure you do subscribe down below so that way you won't miss out on any of my new uploads. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, guys. And good luck tonight on both slates. Peace.